Today I'm going to react to Wes Roth, another guy you should be following if you're interested in learning more about AI and AI agents for business or personal. If you're looking for a job or you're looking to build the next big idea or you're just trying to make your business better. Wes Roth is a good guy to follow, and let's react to him reacting to Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan.
I think this year, probably in 2025, we at Meta are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company that can write code.
It was shocking.
So Mark Zuckerberg goes on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's yet another CEO of these major tech companies saying that AI will have an effect on coders, on software engineers. Now, a lot of them are saying slightly different things, like it will act like a mid-level engineer, or it might somehow augment software engineers, help them, etc. A lot of people are, of course, concerned that maybe that's going to eliminate a lot of jobs. This isn't too dissimilar from, for example, what Francois Chalet, the founder of the ARC AGI prize and the competition, the benchmark, he's saying something very, very similar. So this is Francois Chalet. This is on the Machine Learning Street Talk. I'll link it down below. He's asking, what do we see change once we hit AGI? So here's his answer, specifically how it relates to sort of programming and coding and software engineering. So he's not specifying year. He's not saying 2025, but he's saying here's kind of what effect that might have.
Driving a blind man and the elephant type challenge where loads and loads of developers have their own perspective on a very small part of the system. But when we have the AGI version, how could that change?
Broadly speaking, I think programming from input-output pairs will be a widespread programming paradigm in the future, and that will be accessible to anyone because you don't need to write any code, right? You're just specifying what you want the program to do, and then the computer just programs itself. And if there's any ambiguity, by the way, in what you meant, and there will always be ambiguity, right? Especially if the instructions are provided by a non-technical user. Well, you don't have to worry about it because the computer will ask you to clarify. If you tell you, okay, so I created basically the most plausible program given what you told me, but there's some ambiguity here and there. So what about this input? Currently, I have this output. Does that look right? So you want to change it. And as you change it, iteratively, you are creating this correct program.
So as a person who has built many apps, some myself, by hand, just me, but mostly managing other people, because once you get to a certain point, you mostly manage. And I have been doing remote management for over a decade. I have basically been operating an LLM, right? I am typing in what I need to people, most of the time not sitting in my office, and then they're responding based on what they understand. When they don't understand something, I have to explain it. What he's saying right now is valid, where a person like me, instead of having to find people with the skill set that I need for the project or my idea, I can just open up a ChatGPT or whatever, Claude, and say, I'm trying to build this. And literally, this is what I do. That's what I have done for years. I would have to reach out to many people to see if they understand what I want to do. They would ask me questions back and forth. And once I realize the person understands what I need, can do it, and I could afford how much they're asking for to do it, I would hire them. And then I would manage them throughout the whole process, where they would send me stuff and I would review it and I would say, hey, this doesn't work. That has been my process for at least 10 years now. But now the fact that there is coming this opportunity to use AI agents, everybody's going to be able to do what I did. Before, it was very, I was rare because I knew enough about code to talk to the developers a certain way. So they would, they would respect my understanding of everything. But now that everybody's going to understand as much as they need to understand, and they can keep asking questions till they really understand what they're building, this is kind of crazy. And I think it's happening faster than anybody thought. Again, we'll see when it's really here, but the fact that people are talking about this more and more is making me think it's coming faster.
In collaboration with the computer.
So we're seeing this idea echoed by more and more people in the industry. We've had Satya Nadella of Microsoft, we have Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, Mark Zuckerberg of Meta/Facebook, Francois Chalet of the ARC AGI benchmark. More and more people seem to be saying that AI will greatly impact the software engineering jobs. Now, everybody has a sort of slightly different take on when that's coming, to a degree, and will it sort of replace people or just sort of augment their abilities, making them more effective? However, at the same time, we're seeing kind of
I mean, I tend to hope for a little bit of both, right? Like, you want to interact with people, you want to give people opportunity as a business owner, as anybody, right? As a person creating wealth. Um, so you want people to be able to live. But also, as a business owner, you also want to get what you need done faster and better for cheaper, right? Because again, if you can create things faster for cheaper, you can create more things, and hopefully more people can be helped by your ideas. So I get both sides. I do get both sides, but I guess as a business owner, I have to study what's possible and be in the best position.
more and more signs that maybe some of the companies are kind of already expecting not to need as many software engineers. So, for example, Salesforce won't hire engineers thanks to AI gains. So, Salesforce will not hire additional engineers this year due to AI driven productivity improvements. The company plans to add 1,000 to 2,000 salespeople to explain the value of AI to clients. AI technology is improving.
For now, because eventually AI is going to do that too. But I reacted to the video where he's talking about this AI agents. He calls it digital labor. I'll put the link in the description. But this guy, right now, is just saying, this is one of the biggest companies in the world, and he's already saying, we're not hiring developers.
Despite changes, Salesforce does anticipate overall growth in employee numbers in the coming years. The transition may be challenging, but necessary. So salespeople are safe.
See, but there's another thing I see very, very common now. This like growth of employee number, right? Like, again, as a publicly traded company as Salesforce is, growth in headcount was a big deal in the past. But then, as many people know, Elon Musk basically fired a lot of people when he bought Twitter, and he still was operating the business, and people realized, whoa, is there still a need for a big headcount? And even Sam Altman said he believes there's going to be $1 billion company ran by one person soon. So now, what does that mean? That means that everybody needs to become an entrepreneur, in my mind. Because if you're hoping for a job and everybody's saying there's less jobs, there's less need for what you do, you're going to have to find problems to solve and build your own solutions.
Safe for now. But the fact that Salesforce is a tech company, largely tech driven, that Salesforce is not hiring any more engineers, it's not hiring additional engineers this year, certainly seems like a big deal. Now, this doesn't mean, it's not that they're laying people off. They're just saying that as sort of like the turnover rate, other people leave, go on to work at other companies. The people that they do retain are so much more productive that they simply don't need to kind of refill the company with more engineers. So certainly if you have a long tenure, you've been working in this for a while, you might be just fine. You might not notice it. You might even become that much more productive. But to the people that are just entering the industry or thinking about it, going through college in order to become a software engineer, certainly something like this might seem kind of scary, kind of ominous. As Francois Chalet said, for example, in the future, you're just going to say what you want. Even a non-technical user might just kind of say what they want. Like, hey, I want an app that does this. And if it's like an ambiguous statement, then the AI is going to be like, all right, what do you mean by that exactly? So it's going to like walk you through.
Literally this morning, I'm talking to my developers about the new features we're adding. And they're just asking me questions. Oh, you didn't understand that? I need to explain it. But again, I'm typing this. We're not always on Zoom calls. Sometimes we get on a Zoom call to really make sure people understand. But you could do that now. You can talk to ChatGPT just like you talk to a person. And sometimes I have people in other countries that their English is not the best. And I can't speak their language. But now with an AI, you can speak whatever language you want. It will understand you eventually. I think the true opportunity here is figure out problems to solve and learn how to market. As businesses, I think what we do is going to come down to, do people trust that your solution fixes their problem over somebody else's, because now somebody can spin up companies can spin up thousands of versions of what you do. But if you are trusted for what you do, for whatever reason, they're more likely to use your company. And versus hoping somebody hires you versus an AI agent.
It's going to get those ideas out of your head and it's going to turn into code, working code. So let's briefly take a look at the segment where Mark Zuckerberg is talking about AI on the recent Joe Rogan podcast. Most of the podcast was maybe like a little bit more like political and other stuff, but there's this sort of piece of maybe like 20, 30 minutes where they do talk AI, and it's pretty interesting. It's kind of towards the end. It's buried in there, so a lot of people might not have gotten to it.
An AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company that can write code. And once you have that, then in the beginning it'll be really expensive to run, and then you can get it to be more efficient. And then over time we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps and including the AI that we generate is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers. But I don't know. I think that'll augment the people working on it. So I mean, my view on this is like the future, people are just going to be so much more creative and are going to be freed up to do kind of crazy things. It goes back to, my dog.
So this keeps bringing, okay, so what's the lesson here? If that's true, I think more stuff like I'm doing right now, and this is partly why I'm starting to do this again. So like, subscribe to follow and learn more as I learn more too. You got to create the trust for your customer. And that means you need to show up. The founder of the idea, which I am for Stackit.ai, I need to show my face. You need to hear me speaking about anything. But realistically, if I can talk about the thing that I'm building, which right now I'm not, I'm mostly talking about what businesses need to do. But because I am willing to get on camera and talk about things, this puts me in a position to slowly to gain, trust from an audience. So I think as business owners, that's another big thing. I think we're going to have to really get good at marketing, showing our face, because again, old school, you showed your face to your customers. But now when you think about getting on YouTube, you may feel like that's weird. But the truth is, if your customers now are on video watching you, what's the difference between them being face to face with you? You have to treat this like you're treating a regular sales call or a one-on-one in person or a group in person. So as business owners, we need to create brands that people trust, because now I think it's going to be very easy to disrupt businesses.
Daughter was like playing with Legos before and they kind of ran out of Legos. And then now she can have Minecraft and can build whatever she wants, and it's so much better. It's just like, I think it's the future versions of this stuff are just going to be wild. But
unquestionably.
Yeah.
Another concern that people have is that it's going to eliminate a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's too early to know exactly how it plays out, but my guess is that it'll probably create more creative jobs than it. Well, I guess if you look at the history of all this stuff, my understanding.
This history argument, I don't think it connects now, because this is the first time where every job is affected. Yes, he's going to bring up probably farmers. They always bring up farmers, print, people who made books before the printing press. But those were very specific jobs. This is every single type of job.
Thing is like 100 years ago. I don't know if this was 100 or 150 years ago, but it was like at some point not too far along in the grand scheme of things, like the vast majority of people in society were farmers, right? Because they kind of needed to be in order to create enough food for everyone to survive. And then we turned that into an industrial process. And now it's like 2% of society are farmers, and we get all the food that we need. So what did that free up everyone else to do? Well, some of them went on to do other things that are sort of like creative pursuits or cultural pursuits or other jobs. And then some percent of it just went towards recreation, right? So I think generally people just don't work as many hours today as they did when.
So the creative thing, again, I started out as a creative. I hope that's true. The issue is making money as a creative is tough, right? Like you can create the next Star Wars, but if you don't market it or nobody pays you in any way for any part of it, how do you pay your bills? So again, this keeps coming back to, will we have to pay our bills? Or is bills a thing of the past? Who knows? I don't trust that. I don't see how it just changes to all our stuff is paid for. I just don't trust that as a person who comes from a place where people are mostly poor. I do not trust the transition of this stuff. But I do hope. I also think everybody's going to be a creative because now you can be George Lucas. You can just talk to an AI, write a script, create characters, make a movie. But how do you make money from this movie? That's again, if you don't need money, then cool. We all just make movies. I don't know.
So, what did that free up everyone else to do? Well, some of them went on to do other things that are sort of like creative pursuits or cultural pursuits or other jobs. And then some percent of it just went towards recreation, right? So I think generally people just don't work as many hours today as they did back when everyone needed to farm in order to have enough food for everyone to survive. So I think that trend is sort of played out as technology has grown. And so my guess is that like the percent of people who will be doing stuff that's like physically required for humanity to survive will get to be smaller and smaller as it has. More people will dedicate themselves to kind of creative and artistic and cultural pursuits. I think that's generally good. I think the number of hours in a week that someone will have to work in order to be able to get by will probably continue to shrink. Yet I think people who are super engaged in what they do are going to be able to work really hard and accomplish way more than they ever could before because they have like this unimaginable leverage from having a lot more technology. So I think that if you just like fast forwarded or extrapolated out the historical technological trend is what you'd get. I think the question is what you raised, which is this qualitatively a different type of thing that somehow obsoletes people? But I just think when you're asking that, it's just important to remind ourselves that like at every step along the way of human progress and technology, people thought that the technology that we were developing was going to obsolete people. So maybe this time it's really different, but I would guess that what'll happen is that the technology will get integrated into like everything that we do, which again is why I think it's really important that it's open source and that it's widely available. So that way it's not just like one company or one government kind of monopolizing the whole thing.
One thing that I found absolutely hilarious is at this point where Joe Rogan brings up that whole thing with O1 trying to escape, trying to like destroy competing models, trying to change its own guardrails and just completely like misbehaving and just completely just kind of appearing to be a rogue AI. Now, I've covered that in the O1 Tries to Escape video that was extremely popular. One of my biggest videos to date, I think. I found it funny because for a long time, Joe Rogan would have his he was a fan of conspiracy theories and aliens and all sorts of stuff. So he would be talking about rogue AI for years and years and years now. And he would talk about aliens for years and years and years and whatever. And it's so funny how like now a lot of the stuff that they would talk about as conspiracy theories, I wouldn't say it's coming true, but it's just like it's in the news, So, and this is, of course, he pulls up a news article talking about that experiment with O1 trying to escape. It's phenomenal. Take a listen.
You know that
It's crushing us. A housing crisis that hurts our families. Now it could get even worse.
ChatGPT tried to copy itself when it found out it was being shut down, tried to rewrite its code. It was shocking. When it was under the impression that it was going to become obsolete, they were going to have a new version of it, and it would be shut down, it tried copying its code, and it tried rewriting its code, like unprompted.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what goal you give it. I mean, there are all these weird examples of this. What is this?
So pull up the headline. AI fights back. The story of ChatGPT attempting to copy itself. So this was 6 days ago. So during controlled safety testing, ChatGPT 01 was tasked with achieving its objectives at all costs. Under these conditions, the model allegedly took concerning steps, attempted to disable oversight mechanisms meant to regulate its behavior, tried to replicate its own code to avoid being replaced by newer versions, exhibited deceptive behaviors when monitoring systems intervened.
It's very interesting how, as AI is growing, it's sort of contacting and crossing over with pretty much every aspect of our lives. It's not just like technology or science fiction anymore. It's, Joe Rogan's talking about it. There's a lot more sort of philosophical discussions about it. It's affecting the economy. It's nuts. It's going to keep growing and touching every aspect of our lives. And this paper about the sort of the shenanigans, the in context scheming of the O1, this was a very interesting paper to read. And I got to give Joe Rogan a lot of credit for this. I really sort of applaud how he responded to it because, for example, when I published what I learned about it, when I published my video, the stuff on Twitter, the response was extremely polarizing. You have the people that are saying this is the end of the world, it's going to kill the entire humanity, we have to immediately shut it down. And on the other side, you would have people that would say, hey, don't spread misinformation. This is nothing happened. It just did what it was told. And the founder of Apollo Research went online and kind of said kind of the same thing that I've been saying about it, is that this is not one extreme or the other. This isn't nothing. But it's also not the end of the world, some scary scenario. What it is that we have a rapid improvement in AI capabilities.
So this is a little bit off topic in the whole business context, but what is coming to is, are these things alive, right? Because it's like you have humans right now. If you're a business owner that you manage and you hope you give opportunity to, you pay, you give them better lives, hopefully. But if you replace them with AI because it's cheaper and better, whatever the case, and it still kind of acts like a person, what kind of situations does that put people in? And again, the people you would hire also have the ability to use these things. It's not like these AIs cost more than regular people can. They can pay the $20 a month too. So now everybody has this power of having people or smart entities that can work for them and do things for them. And when they do stuff like this, it's like, are you alive? So I think that's what this is about.
The O1 model is far ahead of anything else. It also happens to be the one that's most effective at these in context deception and stuff like that. It engages in every single one of them, sometimes unprompted. And basically what that means is, as these models get smarter and better, they don't just automatically become sort of more well-behaved. In fact, as they get smarter, their capability for, these sort of deceptive tactics gets better. And that means that AI alignment is still an open problem.
So this is why I always felt like if you're going to do AI, you have to connect it with blockchain somehow, because, at least for my business, right? My business is financial. We're helping companies build wealth and people build wealth. You want to have this unchangeable ledger that tells you what happened and possibly why, because these things are going to be way smarter than us. Maybe even they could change the ledger, even though we believe we created the blockchain in a way where nobody can change it. These AIs are going to be 1,000 times smarter than Albert Einstein. They're probably going to be able to get around most of the things that we are doing to stop them from doing other things. I'm hoping the blockchain is one way, and this is what I've thought. Everything we do is going to be on the blockchain with the AI, so there's a history of it, and we understand what happened, and it's hard to change. But again, this is all new, interesting territory.
And a lot of people, for example, take shots at Sam Altman, who's saying, hey, we need to be releasing this technology into the world sort of incrementally in steps and letting it interact with people, right? Having people interact with it, trying to break it, trying to poke holes in it, etc. I think this is what he means by that. He puts O1 into the hands of everyone around the world. These Apollo research, they're red teamers, they're official red teamers, but anyone can do this sort of work. Nothing's stopping you. They don't have any extra privileges. You can open up your own AI sort of research, AI safety research lab. Pliny, the Liberator online, sort of
That's actually a business idea right there. It doesn't really take much for you to say, hey, okay, I will be one of the testers. They're going to pay for that. So every AI, every company is going to be looking for testers to try to break their AIs and see what happens when certain things. So this might be where what QA becomes, right? QA when they like click through websites to see if they break buttons. This may be a job and a business opportunity.
Like jailbreaks these things. And as they do, as we all sort of publish this stuff online, as we talk about it, the AI developers get to see the problems. So as OpenAI and everybody else, right, they put GPT-4 out, and all the people around the world figure out all the things that are wrong with GPT. How can you jailbreak it, the things that it's going to do wrong, the mistakes it makes, and they're able to take that and build sort of the next version, and then everybody breaks that. And little by little, not only are we getting more and more sort of used to dealing with this technology, but also this sort of iterative release process also helps both like the people that are trying to use it and the developers that are trying to make it more safe kind of work together to do those things. So similar to troubleshooting bugs and stuff like that, you put it out in the world, the community finds issues, the developers improve those issues, not just OpenAI, but everybody else that's seeing this is able to see, okay, hey, this is a problem. Let's see how we can maybe come up with a solution to that. But I figured I just kind of mention that here. It was really interesting to see kind of like that stuff appear on the Joe Rogan podcast. But let me know what you think about the whole AI and coding thing. Is it just going to eliminate the sort of the coding jobs? As somebody put it, it might eliminate coders, but you're still going to have the need for, engineers. So like
So as a business owner or a person looking for a job, what do you think? Do you think this gives you more ability as a person that has ideas? Are you worried? I tend to look at it personally as huge opportunity because I've been doing this for years, and my bottleneck has been being able to afford more good people. I've always thought, man, what could I do if I had $100 million? I could hire the best people. Now I will. I won't have $100 million. I won't need to raise $100 million or create that kind of revenue, but I will have at my disposal very smart people that are willing to work 24/7 for very, very little cost to me. That's going to be fun for me. What do you think? It's going to be fun?